Welcome to the 700 Club. While we were asleep, a devastating tornado ripped through Jefferson City, Missouri. It was a monster. It tossed cars, it tore apart buildings, trapped people in debris, and it's only part of a deadly storm system that has ravaged the Midwest with epic flooding. John Jessup has more from the CBN News Desk.
Right, Pat. The storms killed at least 3 people in Missouri Wednesday. Video from the capital, Jefferson City, shows buildings crushed, power lines down, and cars destroyed. One resident said it felt like an earthquake. At least 9 people were taken to hospitals, and there are a number of reports of people still trapped in homes and apartment complexes. More than 3,000 people are without power. At least 29 tornadoes have touched down in the Plains states in the last 24 hours, and since Friday, reports of 171 twisters across the region. In Missouri and Oklahoma, the storm's bringing torrential rain. People in Tulsa are packing and moving to higher ground because more homes and businesses could be underwater soon. It's been more than 30 years since Tulsa has seen storms and floods like this. Part of this system is expected to move northeast today, bringing a chance for severe weather from West Virginia to New England. Well, White House officials are getting briefed on a Pentagon plan today to send more troops to the Middle East. This amid growing threats from Iran. And while the administration worked to calm war fears on Capitol Hill, the president is engaging in a war of words with the Speaker of the House. Gary Lane has details.
U.S. Central Command made the request for more U.S. troops in response to attack threats from Iran. The Pentagon's plan proposes sending 10,000 to the Middle East for defensive purposes. It comes just days after President Trump ordered B-52 bombers and the USS Abraham Lincoln Strike Group to the region.
Our biggest focus at this point is to prevent Iranian miscalculation. We do not want the situation to escalate. This is about deterrence, not about war.
Senator Lindsey Graham says the move shows the United States is ready to respond if needed to protect American lives and U.S. vital interests in the region.
The best thing to happen is for everybody to calm down and Iran to back off, and I'm hoping that this show of force will result in de-escalating, not escalating.
As Republicans and members of the administration calmed Iran war fears, the president battled it out in a war of words with Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi. Trump called off a White House meeting with Democratic leaders on improving the country's infrastructure after Pelosi accused him of being involved in a cover-up for refusing to cooperate with congressional investigations.
I don't do cover-ups.
The president then said he would not work with Democrats on any issue until they stop investigating him.
You can go down the investigation track, and you can go down the investment track or the track of let's get things done for the American people.
In a letter to fellow lawmakers, Pelosi referred to the president's behavior in the Oval Office as a temper tantrum. For days, she's been trying to keep congressional Democrats from pursuing impeachment. Now she could be softening that stance.
This president is obstructing justice, and he's engaged in a cover-up. And that could be an impeachable offense.
Wednesday, the president suffered another setback in the courts. A federal judge ruling that 2 banks can turn over to congressional committees financial documents related to the president and his businesses. Gary Lane, CBN News.
Thanks, Gary. Pat, it looks like the president is throwing down the gauntlet with Democrats.
Oh, I think there's no way that they can have something done. A house divided against itself can't stand. And if the Democrats continue on this anti-Trump tirade, then the Trump is absolutely right to do what he's doing. But I tell you, again, these individual district court judges issuing national proclamations, it is unconstitutional, it is wrong, and it's time somebody reined them in. Well, CBN chief political analyst David Brody is joining us now. And David, the war between Trump and Congress keeps escalating. Can you ever think they'll get anything together?
Probably not, Pat. As a matter of fact, the chances were roughly at about 10% or so. That's my calculation of an infrastructure deal before the big blow up in the meeting yesterday. After that, probably 0.0001%. Talking to White House this morning, a source tells me that it does not look good at all that an infrastructure deal will get done no matter what here, especially after the meeting. So in other words, I asked him before the meeting compared to after the meeting. He said after the meeting now, it just doesn't look like it's going to happen. So look, this is what Donald Trump warned about. He said the day after his post-midterm election press conference, in that press conference, he actually said, if they investigate me, if they go for my tax returns, if they do this, or do that, then indeed he will say, forget about it. We're not going to get anything done. Two can play at that game, and that's exactly what's going on.
What do you think Nancy Pelosi had in her mind when she said the president is engaged in a cover-up? What kind of an insult to somebody that's going into a meeting with a man trying to work out a deal?
Well, that's right. It was an insult, Pat, for sure. I mean, think about it, right? I mean, this is just human nature. You're going to go into a meeting, let's just say it's high school or college or just regular business meeting, someone insults you and then wants to have a meeting with you. And he said, forget that. Look, she's smart. These are tactical words used by Nancy Pelosi. You don't use the words cover-up lightly. That invokes, obviously, Watergate. It invokes scandal, clearly. And so she was doing that from a tactical perspective. Why exactly? Well, look, inside the Democrat caucus, there is more of a drumbeat for impeachment. This was her way of taking a leap towards impeachment proceedings. She doesn't want to do it, Pat, but she also has a caucus that is being very hard to herd, if you will. A lot of cats, a lot of cows on the farm, and she's trying to figure this out. She's been very good in the past. I think it'll be very difficult this time around.
It seems like to me if the Democrats go forward in the House with impeachment, it's going to destroy their prospects for 2020. It certainly, look what happened with Bill Clinton. Are they aware? Nancy Pelosi is aware of that. Apparently her members aren't.
That's a great point, Pat. When Bill Clinton was impeached, his poll numbers actually went up. He became more popular. And that's exactly what Nancy Pelosi has been telling her friends in the Democrat caucus to please, let's not do this. I don't think this is a good idea. Let's not make it about Donald Trump, because remember, the 2016 election was about Donald Trump, and oh, this just in, he's president of the United States. If it becomes about Donald Trump once again, not only will his poll numbers most likely go up, which is relatively shocking, but he very well could win re-election. So I think there is a big portion of all of that at play here, Pat.
Oh, what about this Iran thing? He's sending more troops, at least the Defense Department wants more troops. The Iranians apparently are bluffing, but are they serious? I mean, and what are the Democrats saying about this?
Well, the Democrats are saying, look, we've been down this road before. We've heard about weapons of mass destruction and President George W. Bush at the time, and they believe that this might be a bit concocted. Of course, the White House pushing back on that clearly. But beyond that, there's also now talk about how this may, and this is from Democrats, but this may be all a ploy to get Saudi Arabia certain weapons that they can use in their battle in Yemen. Because, in essence, it's a long story, but basically Donald Trump could somehow use some sort of a congressional act and a loophole through that to get Saudi Arabia some weapons here to help out in Yemen. And that's, of course, what they're saying. Look, this whole thing has been a relative disaster. Once again, Democrats trying to do something, think of something with Donald Trump here. They have been pretty much unsuccessful so far. I do want to point out, Pat, going back to this impeachment and court battles, did you know, the USA Today did a survey on this. Donald Trump, in his 30 years in business, has been involved in 3,500 lawsuits in 30 years. 3,500. He's been the plaintiff in about 1,900 of them, the defendant in 1,400. But here's the key stat. Out of the ones that had a final defined outcome, he won 451 times. He only lost 38 times. So you can imagine that he believes that he's empowered, whether it be on the Iran situation, but more importantly, or I say more importantly, but on the court situation with the Democrats right now. Take me to court. I've had a pretty good track record. That's his thinking.
Have you got any poll numbers right now about what the American people are saying about all this?
Well, in terms of impeachment?
Well,
yeah.
The whole fight that's going on.
Yeah, well, first of all, the poll numbers with Donald Trump just don't change. I mean, it doesn't matter at all. And so ultimately, the poll numbers that we're seeing, whether they fluctuate by a percentage point or two, the truth of the matter, and you know this, Pat, elections are won at the margins. It's all going to be about tactical ways to get out the vote, both from the Trump campaign and whoever runs against Trump in 2020 and who the candidate is. But no, the poll numbers pretty much show that this hasn't changed much. I will say there is an interesting poll number. The polls of the increase in folks that are okay with socialism in America is increasing quite a bit. That should give everyone pause, but basically make the Democrats more emboldened in some of their socialist policies that they want to implement in the 2020 campaign. Of course, that could work in favor of Donald Trump. Ultimately, even though those numbers are increasing, it's still not a majority in America.
David, thank you. Continue your brilliant analysis. We appreciate it very much. Terry.
Thanks, Pat.